Hi, good evening. My name is Joshua Goodrow, and I am a rising freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. Today, I'm mainly just going to go over the May 2021 SAT math section 3, so I could help you. And I hope that you find great value in this webinar. And if you have any questions, reach out to the Embrace Tutoring website. And now let's begin. First question. Two lines intersect as shown. What is the value of x? So the lines here, right, in the diagram, they have a vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles when they are equal. Vertical angles. Angles equal to each other, basically. So this angle has to equal to this angle, and that's what the characteristic of vertical angles. And they're usually made with an x and in this form. So you can see the x right here. These are the vertical angles, these are another vertical angles, and they have to equal to each other. So they're asking for the value of x. To solve this question, you would have to set both angles equal to each other. So you would do 5x plus 5 is equal to 7x minus 35. You combine like terms, you subtract the 5 on both sides, you get 5x is equal to 7x minus 40. And then you would subtract the 7x on both sides to get negative 2x is equal to negative 40. And you would get divided by negative 2 actually. Step negative 40 divided by negative 2 becomes a positive, and then it becomes 20. Your answer is choice B. And now, yeah, choice B. So make sure for vertical angles, you have it as the x form, and then you have to make sure that vertical angles are when they are equal to each other. So x is equal to 20. Okay. Next question. What is the positive solution to the given equation? So we have the given equation with the absolute value right here. So to solve this type of question, you would have to split it up into two. So for absolute values, there are two possible answers. There are answers with where 2x minus 4 is equal to positive 8, and 2x minus 4 is equal to negative 8. So you have to keep that in mind. When solving for an absolute value equation, they might have two answers. But notice in the question, it says, what is the positive value? So you have to, so basically, I just solve for both and see which one is a positive. So it makes it very easy for me to solve. These are basic equations. So to solve the first part, you would add 4 on both sides. 2x is equal to 12, and then divided by 2. X is equal to 6. We know that's our positive answer, is choice C, but I just want to show the other answer. We can add 4 on this side to get 2x is equal to negative 4, and then divided by 2, and you get x is equal to negative 2. So this is another answer that would work. We can plug it in to see. 2 times 6 is 12, minus 4 is 8. The absolute value of 8 is just 8, so that works. And now negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Minus 4 is negative 8, and then the absolute value of negative 8 is always a positive value, so it's 8. So this one also works. But since the question is asking for a positive value, our answer is choice C, 6. Next question. Which of the following is equivalent to 4x cubed plus 8x squared? So to solve this question, we have to first look at the choices. So basically, they're asking us to find another way that this equation is written in. So basically, if you look at the choices, you have a greatest common factor. You just have to take out. So the greatest common factor from this from this equation would be the 4, because 4 can go into both the coefficients. The coefficient, by the way, is the number in front of the variable. Take the 4, and then you take the lower exponent value, so it'd be x squared. So when you divide by 4x squared, you get 4x cubed minus 4 divided by 4x squared is just x, plus, and then 8x squared divided by 4x squared is just 2. And then you put the 4x squared on the outside, and that is your answer, choice C. So this question was basically asking for the greatest common factor. You take the factor that goes into both coefficients, and then you take the lower exponent power of the lower exponent, and then you just put that, and then that's just divide, and that's how you get your answer for question 3, choice C. Okay, next question. If 12n plus 12 is equal to 26n, what is the value of 6n? Okay, so we have 2n plus 12 is equal to 26n, right? So let's rewrite this. We can divide, subtract, excuse me, divide by, subtract 2n on both sides to get 12 is equal to 24n, right? Now it's asking for the value of 6n, not n or like the value of n or like solving for anything else. They're just asking for the value of 6n. So we, instead of finding n and then multiplying by 6, you can just basically do divide this entire thing by 4 to get 24n divided by 4 is just 6n, which is what we're looking for. And then now 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our answer is choice C. So that's how you do 4. So a lot of the times the SCT asks questions where they say, oh, find the value of 3n or 3z instead of the actual the variable, or like just regular z or regular n. They ask you to find like 4n, 3n, or whatever it might be. So the best way to do this is to make to see what are the patterns and try to see if there's an easier way to get to that answer. Because I could have, if someone didn't notice this, they could have subtracted the 2n on both sides. They get 12 is equal to 24n, and then divided by 24 to get 0.5. And then they would do 6 times 0.5, which is also 3. But instead of finding n and then multiplying by 6, you could just divide once and then get your answer. Now let's go to question 5. Okay. Quadrilateral ABCD is shown. Which equation shows how the measures of an angle of the angles of the quadrilateral are related? So we have to know that the quadrilateral has 360 degrees. We have to know that as the fact. So this is the fact. Yeah. Okay. So we know this is the 90-degree angle. This is another angle. This is another angle, and this is another angle. It's not asking for us to find the value of x. They're just asking for the equation that would show, or would show how to find the value of x, which is what they're basically saying. Which equation shows the measures of angles of the quadrilateral are related? So all these angles in the quadrilateral have to add up to 180. 260. Sorry. So you would have that. You would have the x. You would have the 90 degrees. Good. You would have the 2x minus 5, and then you would have the x plus 5 in parentheses. And so choice A is our answer. But I can show you why B, C, and D are not the answers. For some reason, they're multiplying by 4, so this doesn't work because you're not supposed to do that. You just have to add them up. They don't have the 90 here, so this also gets out. It's eliminated. And they're also multiplying by 4 again, so choice D is out. So we know for question 5, it's choice A because you have to add all of them up. Question 6. In right triangle ABC, the length of side AC is 12. The measure of angle A is 40, and angle B is a right angle. Which of the following can be determined using the information given? The measure of angle is C, and the length of side of AB. So the best way to solve this question is to draw a diagram because it always helps to visualize. So it's a right angle, a right triangle. So you do a right triangle. ABC, we don't know what it is, but we know AC is 12 and the measure of A is 40. We know B is the right angle, so this has to be right here. So we know A and C have to be here. So AC is 12, we know that, and we also know angle A is 40. So we can easily find angle C, which is what we're asking for, which is part 1 asking, or saying that we can find the measure of angle C. We just have to do 90 plus 40 plus x is equal to 180, because that's how many degrees are in a triangle. So you do 130 plus x, you get 180, subtracted by 130 on both sides, and you get x is equal to 50. So you can find measure of angle C. So we know B is out and A is out because it says only. No, I'm sorry. We know that B is out, and we also know that D is out. Sorry, yeah, because if we know one works, then B can be eliminated and D can be eliminated. Now, part 2, the length of side AB. At first, someone might think that you cannot find it, but in actuality, you can. You just have to use trigonometry. You have to use one of the ratios. You have to use SOHCAHTOA, where it's sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is the opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Since we're given the hypotenuse, which is this side right here, it's 12, you can see that it's that you have to, and you also have to realize what you're looking for. You're looking for side AB. So you would have to use the adjacent side and the you would have to use the length of side AB and the hypotenuse. Okay, so we can use cosine. Let's say cosine. We can do cosine of 40 is equal to x, which is AB, which is the adjacent side, over the hypotenuse. What's the hypotenuse? Oops. Hypotenuse is 12. And then we can cross multiply over 1 and then solve for x. And that is basically 12 cosine 40, which is what your answer is. But you don't have to calculate it, just asking if we can find the answer or we determine the information from the given. So we know it's choice C. We can find both information. Okay, now let's go to question 7. In the XY plane, line L has a slope of 2. Line K is perpendicular to line L. Okay. Okay, yeah. Line L has a slope of 2, and the line K is perpendicular. Perpendicular means that perpendicular means that it was the negative reciprocal of the slope. So which means that for this, if this is line L, line K would be the negative reciprocal, so it'd be -1/2 as a slope. We can see which ones are -1/2, so A and B are gone. And now we have to see, and it contains the point 4, 2. We can make it. We can try the points by plugging it in to see if it works, or we can make it our own equation, see which one matches with what we have. The best way I would suggest would be to do it as plugging it into the choices given, because they have to, one of them has to be the right answer. So let's see with choice C. Y is equal to -1/2 x. This is x and this is y. So 2 is equal to -1/2 times 4, which is 2 is equal to -2. That does not work, so it has to be choice D. But let's just check. Y is equal to -1/2 x plus 4. 2 is equal to -1/2 times 4 plus 4. 2 is equal to -2 plus 4. 2 is equal to 2. And that is why for question 7 is choice D. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, question 8. The given equation relates the variables c, x, y, where c is greater than 0, x is greater than 0, and y is greater than 0. Which equation correctly expresses y in terms of c and x? Okay, so we're just basically trying to solve for y. So we have to isolate. So c is equal to x over y. We can cross multiply. So you get yc is equal to x, and then just basically divide by c. So you get y by itself. You just have to do the opposite. And then that is our answer. Y is equal to x over c, choice D. Okay, 1 second, choice D. Okay, good. Okay. Next, yeah, so let me just let me explain what I did again for question 8. I basically determined what they were looking for in terms of y. And then basically I just rearranged the equation, and then I solved for y, and then that's how I got the answer. Question 9. The function f is a linear function. So we know it's in a line where it's y is equal to mx plus b form. The y-intercept of the graph of y is equal to f of x of the xy plane is 0, -12, which is the standard y-intercept, the y-intercept form. I mean the coordinate, where if the y-intercept, if they're giving the y-intercept, you know the x has to be 0. If it's the x-intercept, you know the y has to be 0. Anyways, so it's asking for what is the y-intercept of the graph of y is equal to f of x plus 2. Basically, this plus 2 right here means it's a vertical shift. Vertical shift, okay, so let's say it's somewhere around here, or right there at the bottom. Let's say this is -12. This is 0. So if the vertical shift means that it would be a plus or minus on the outside of the outside of the formula, or f of x. If it was a horizontal shift, it would have been y is equal to f of x plus 2, which would mean it's a horizontal, meaning it can move left or right. Y is equal to fx plus 2 is vertical, meaning up or down. Okay, and now we understand that. It's asking for y is equal to f of x plus 2. So if it's a -12 right now, and we add 2, we bring it up by 2, it would basically mean it would be -12 plus 2, which is -10. And since we know they're asking for the y-intercept, you know it has to be 0, comma something, right? So we can get rid of C and D. So now if we're adding -12 to 2, which I basically did here, and if you know it's 10, it has to be 0, comma -10, which is choice B for 9. And that is how I did question 9. You just have to break down the question and understand what they're asking for. And see, for C and D, I removed those choices as the viable as viable answers, because for the y-intercept, the x coordinate has to be 0, and since that did not satisfy the condition or the characteristic of the y-intercept, that can't be the answer. So once again, 9 is choice B. Let's do question 10. Which of the following is or are an x-intercept of the graph y is equal to x plus 3 times x minus 2 over x? So first we have to know what x-intercepts are. X-intercepts are basically the roots, or when it's a value and 0 as the y value. For an x-intercept, the y value must be 0. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. Also, we can check that it's true because all of these have the 0 as the y-intercept or y value, so we know that. Now, for the roots, right? Since this is in fraction form, we know that the denominator cannot be 0, because if anything over 0, that means it's undefined, which cannot exist in math. So if it's over 0, we know that's not an answer. And since it we know option 3 is saying that is 0 over 0. If we plug in 0 here, 0 plus 3, 0 minus 2 over 0, and that cannot happen because it would be undefined. So that cannot be a possible answer. So let me remove this right here. Good. So we know 3 can't be our answer. So we know D is out and B is out. Now it's either A or C, where it's either 1 or 2, or 1 and 2. Okay, now let's try 1. Let's try -3. We do -3 plus 3, -3 minus 2 over -3. What's -3 plus 3? 0. Anything multiplied by a 0 is just 0. So let me just do it. -5 over -3 would be right here. Anything over 0 is a 0. So it'd be 0, which matches with the y-intercept. The value of the output must be 0. So this works. 1 works. Now try 2. Let's do 2. It'd be 2 plus 3 and 2 minus 2 over 2. Anything multiplied by a 0 or a 0 is 0. So it'd be 5 times 0 over 2, which is basically 0, which also matches with what we were saying here. So our answer is choice C for question 10, because you just plug it in and see what the definition or what are the characteristics of the x-intercept as stated. Like I said before, their roots. X-intercepts are roots, and it's the form is this any number and 0, and output is 0, which is the y value being 0, which is connected back to this. Okay, good. Question 11. Okay. The graph of y is equal to 2 raised to the x power minus a is shown, where a is a constant. What is the value of a? So generally, right, the graph looks something like this. And like I said before, there's a vertical translation or a vertical shift because it shifts downward, but it stays in the same position. So if it goes down, right, we could do 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would be our answer, because it goes down, shifts 4 units. 4 units down should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Move that right there. So it stops right here, and this is right here. So if you count it, it's 4 units down. 4 units down. So it is choice A. But another way you could do this is by plugging each a value and seeing and plotting the points. So let's try 2x minus 4 here. Okay, so we know that, right? So we have, this is the graph that they originally gave us. Let's try 0, comma 2 as a point. So 2 raised to the 0 minus 4. Or no, sorry, not 0, comma 2, 2, comma 0. Oops. Okay, so it'd be 2 raised to the 2 power minus 4, which is 4 minus 4 is just 0, which shows that this is the point where this that the 8 is 4, or it's another way of checking it's another way of checking what the value is if you do not know the general shape of the graph or the exponential graph, or the basic formula. So this is another way. So like, let's try, if we try 2x raised to 2 raised to the x minus 3, and let's try this point, we get 2 raised to the 2 minus 3 is 4 minus 3, which is 1, and that does not equal 0, so that's wrong. If we do the same thing with 2, we get 2 squared minus 2 is just 2, and that doesn't equal 0, so that's also out. 2 raised to the 1 is 2, minus 1 is just 1, and that does not also match with 0, so that's also eliminated. So this is another way of checking that what is the constant. Either you can check the graph, or realize it's the vertical shift or translation, or you can plug it in with the points that they gave on the graph. So 11 is choice A. Okay. Now this question. Question 12. For a certain group of fish, the graph models the relationship between body length L in centimeters and tail area A in square centimeters, centimeters squared, where 6 less than or equal to L is less than or equal to 34. Which equation represents the relationship between body length and tail area? Okay, so the way I would do this is to realize we can use a point on the graph. We can use a point, we can use 15 and 5, right? So we have to realize that this is L is the body length. So if we score something large and then multiply by a whole number, if we multiply by either 1, 2, or 3, we would realize it would be a greater number that would not equal to 5. So let's say it was 15 squared. 15 squared is 225. So 225, anything times 1 or 2 or 3, it will give you anything greater than 225, because 225 times 1 is 225, 225 times 2 is 450, and 225 times 3 is 675. So you can't do that either. So because 225 or 450 and 675 do not equal to 5, because that's the coordinate that they have on the graph, 15, 5. So the y, or the y value, or the output, has to equal to 5. So the only way to get a number that is smaller than 225 would be multiplying by a very small decimal, and choice A would only make the most logical sense, because A, B, C, and D will all give a number that is greater than 225, and we have to go below to the value of 5. So choice A works. You have to realize that if you're multiplying by 225 and you want to decrease, the only way to do that is by having a small decimal. But if you multiply by either 1, 2, or 3, you would only increase the value, which is not what we want to do. So 12 is choice A. Okay, question 13. If x comma y is the solution to the given system equation, what is the value of x? Okay, so one way to do this is, so basically the way I would do this is by removing the y's. Because if you remove the y's, you are left with the x's. Okay, so to remove the y's, you would do, we copy this. Is equal to 12, and then you would find a common factor, or like a common multiple between 4 and 6. So it would be 12. So you would multiply this by 3, and then multiply this by 2. You would get, distribute the 3 to everything. You get 24x minus 12y equal to 21, and then 6x plus 12y is equal to 24. Basically, you would then you would add them. So negative 12y plus 12y is basically 0. And then 24x plus 6x is 30x. And then 21 plus 24 is just 45. If you divide it by 30, you get x is equal to 1.5. And that is choice A. So basically remove the, if they tell you to find y, you remove the x's, so then you're left with y and solve for y. But if they tell you to solve for x, you remove the y's. And this is a system of equations problem. System of equations. And these questions come up frequently on the SAT. Okay. Next question, 14. In the given system of equations, k is a constant. The system has exactly one solution. So but this is important to know, one solution. Which of the following could be the value of k? So we have to know that if the lines have same slope, right? Or are parallel, then there are no solution. And this makes sense because if they're parallel, they will never intersect. And basically a solution is when they intersect at one point like this. This would be the intersection point. That would be a solution. But if they're parallel, they will never intersect, meaning that they would never have a solution or intersection. That's why same slope or parallel lines have no solution. One solution means that they have different slopes or different lines, basically, or different lines. One case, second case. Now, third case would be where they are same slope, different slope. Another one would be, this is one slope, one solution. One solution. Now, infinitely many solutions. Many solutions would be if the lines are exactly the same. And because if they're exactly the same, they're on top of each other, meaning that any solution point would work. Because then they would find. Basically, that's what same lines means. Okay, so these are the three different types of conditions that the SAT might test you on. Okay, so now since asking for one solution, we have to use the second condition or second scenario. So the different slopes. So it can't be choice one. It can't be choice one because if it's 2x plus 5 and then 2x plus 3, they would be parallel lines, but just different x intercepts, meaning that they would be parallel, so that they would never have a solution. So it would be it would not be choice A and not be choice C. Now let's try choice part or like option B or option 2, which would be 2x plus 5 and then 5x plus 3. So then it would have to be since they're different slopes, right? You would have to do, since they're different slopes, you would have one specific solution set, so which is why choice B is our answer. And since B is our answer, there's two works. It can't be neither. The B works. Okay. 14, choice B. So just remember to make for this type of question, just basically remember these conditions and just make sure to apply it in that appropriate question. Question 15. The given function B models the number of flower beetles in a certain area, where T represents the number of days after June 1st. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the number 1.11 in this context? So we have, let's label this first. This is the first thing I would do. This would be the initial. This would be the growth. And since this is exponential, this would be days. Exponential are in percentages. And they're not linear, so we have to keep that in mind. The model predicts that there were approximately 1.1 flower beetles in the area on June 1st. This is basically telling the initial. The initial is 100, so A can't be our answer, not initial. Okay, the model predicts that the number of flower area increases by approximately 1.11 each day. This sounds right, but I'll tell you why it's not right. Increases. Okay, the model predicts that it will take approximately 1.11 days for the number of flower beetles to double. If that was the case, then it would be, if it was the double, then it would be 100, 2, and then a raised to the T instead of 1.11, because then it would be And this also, wait, because first of all, it's wrong because if it was doubled, then the inside or the growth would be times, would be doubled. It would be time, would be 2, not 1.11, because 1.11 shows how much it grows every day. And second of all, T represents days, not the number inside the parentheses. That shows the number it grows by. So this is also wrong. And then choice D, the model predicts that the number of flower beetles grows by a factor of approximately 1.11 each day. Factor most hints at or suggests at that it multiplies by 1.1 each day. And since it's exponential, that's what we're looking for. It's not growing at a constant basis. Linear is constant growth, but exponential is when it multiplies by 1.11 or any factor each day. So this is our answer, choice D. The model, so now going back to B, the model predicts that the number of flower beetles in this area increases. Increases hints that linear formula, where it increases by 1.11 each day. So it'd be a constant of 1.11, and that's not the case because that's not the slope. There is no slope in the exponential formula. It's just the initial, the growth factor, and the days. And so the factor shows, or factor hints like that it's an exponential, which fits with the context and it correctly interprets the equation. So question 15 is choice D. Okay. Now, oh, by the way, so for the first 15 questions, the difficulty increases for those where the first question is the easiest and the 15th question is the hardest. And then, so it increases in difficulty as you go on through the questions. And then it resets with the 16 to 20 because those are the fill-ins. So 16 becomes the easiest, 20 becomes the hardest. So now let's go with 16. In the xy plane, the graph of y is equal to 1/2 x plus b, where b is a constant, so we know it's a linear equation. We can also see it as the y is equal to mx plus b form. Intersects at the x-axis at -6, 0. What is the value of b? So basically, we can use this point right here and plug it into the equation to see what the value of b is. So we can do, this is x and this is y. Y we know is 0, so it'd be 1/2 times -6 plus b. 0 is equal to 1/2 times -6, which is -3 plus b. Add 3 on both sides, and you get b is equal to 3. So that is our answer, or the value of b, 3. Question 17. For a trip, a car traveled directly away from its starting point at a constant speed. The graph shows the car's distance from its starting point in miles for times 2 hours to 2.5 hours after the start of the trip. What was the speed of the car in miles per hour during this part of the trip? It's asking from 2 hours to 2.5. So they give us the x coordinate, and the x coordinates of each should be 2 hours, and then the y coordinate, and then 2.5. And then the y coordinate. So 2, if you look at the graph, at 2, it's 110. That's the distance. And at 2.5, it is 135. So they're basically, what was the speed of the car in miles per hour? Basically, that is the slope. If it says miles per hour or a certain rate, that's basically the slope. So you would do xy, xy, x1, y1, x2, y2. And the slope, the formula of this, the slope formula is basically y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. M is equal to y2, which is 135 minus 110 over 2.5 minus 2.0. M is equal to 135 minus 110, which is 25. And 2.5 minus 2 is basically 0.5. So so if you do 25 divided by 0.5, you get 50, because you could do 25 over 250 over 5, which is basically 250. You just bring it. So I just did it in my head, because if you multiply everything by 10, let's say it's 25 over 0.5, multiply everything by 10, you get 250 over 5, which is easier to do in your head, and that's 50, which is how I got 50 right here. So basically, so what was the speed of the car in miles per hour during this part of the trip? So the speed of the car in miles per hour during this part of the trip was 50 miles. For question 17. Question 18. In the xy plane, the graph of the given equation is a circle. What is the radius of the circle? Okay, so they give us in the expanded form. So the first step would be to have it in the form of x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to the r squared. Oops, r squared. Okay, so we have to first use b over 2 squared. That is how you get third of value, and then you have to factor everything in. So you have to find the third value for each part, the x's and y's. So the b over 2 squared is basically, this is a, this is b, and this is b. We have to do it twice. So that's how we solve for this, or basically that's how we get the standard form of a circle, and then you just have to find the identify the radius. So for the first part, the x's, b over 2 squared is basically b, which is negative 8 over 2, and then square that. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 4 squared, you get 16. And then we can rewrite it as x squared minus 8x plus 16. And then there's a plus here, so it'd be plus. And then it would be y squared minus 10y, and then let's do b over 2 squared again for the y's. So the b is negative 10 over 2 squared. Negative 10 over 2 is 5, negative 5, squared is 25. So plus 25, oops, is equal to 40. Now, since we added 16 on this side, we also have to do it on this side. So you add 16, and then we also added 25 on this side. So we have to add 25 on this side too. So on this side, we have to factor. Oh, let me rewrite it. Identify radius. Okay, so we have to factor on this side and add on this side. So what's so we have to find a perfect a binomial that would get squared to get x squared minus 8x plus 16. So that would be x minus 4 squared. Plus, what's the binomial if you square it? That would give you y squared minus 10 and y plus 25. So it would be y minus 5 squared. And then you just add the side. You get 40 plus 16 plus 25. 40 plus 16 is 56 plus 25. So 56 plus 25 is, I think, is 81. So basically 56 plus 25 is 81. And then you would do, so you would get 81 on this side, which is the radius, or in the form of r squared. So I could explain the left side more. You have to factor. You just have to find a binomial that would, if you square it, you would get this expanded form. So let's try it. You would, so basically, the way I think of it, as you look at this one, and look at the third term of the x parts, and then you would basically take the square root of that and just put it with the x or the y. So let's try it. X minus, if it's 16, right? The square root of 16 would be 4. And since it's different signs, it would have to be a minus 4. So let's try it. Let's see if it works. X minus 4. You get x squared minus 4x minus 4x, and then 16 because I'm foiling it, or plus 16. X squared minus 8x plus 16. And that matches with what I said with what's here. Same thing with this. Since this is 25 and the signs are different, it would be y, which stays the same, minus, because it's different signs, and then the square root of 25, which is just 5. And then you would square it. So let's try it. Y minus 5, and then it would be y squared because you FOIL, minus 5y, and then minus 5y, and then negative 5 times negative 5, which is plus 25. Y squared minus 10y plus 25. So that's basically how I got the left side. And so now going back to the radius, since it's in the 81 is equal to r squared, you're looking for r. So you just take the square root. R is basically 9, and that is your radius. This was a long and challenging problem, but once you break down the question and understand what they're asking for, and realize that you just have to know how to factor and combine like terms and just making sure what to do, then you know, and you also know the basics of the formula of the circle, then you know you know how to solve this problem. So once again, for 18, the answer is choice 18 is answer not 9. The answer is 9 for question 18. Now question 19. What is the sum of the solutions to the equation above? So the fast way that I can solve this, that I can basically solve it in 10 seconds, is basically remembering negative b over a. B over a is basically the sum of the solutions, and c over a is the product. If we do negative b over a, which if this is b and this is, if this is a and this is b and this is c, and then you know negative b is negative 6, negative 6, and then a, which is 1. Negative is just positive, so it becomes 6 over 1, which is just 6. that is the sum of the solutions. You can some for this way, you cannot factor it out using the basic factoring methods. You would have to use the quadratic formula. So you have to use the quadratic formula, and it would be negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And then you would plug in the b's and the a's, and then you would have to solve for, since there's two solutions, you have to solve for each part and then add them in to see what the solution is, or the sum is. Basically, that's what you have to do. You have to find the two solutions and then add the solutions to get the sum, because that's what they're asking for. But the way I prefer it is to do it as this method, which is negative b over a, which is the sum, and then or c over a, which is the product. Because sometimes they could ask what is the product of these solutions, and then you can't solve, or you can't necessarily factor that equation, a quadratic equation. So this would be the fastest way to do it, and it also saves a lot of time, and it's an easy way to like know and what to do. Because with the quadratic formula, you would, or the quadratic way, or quadratic method, when you have to solve everything out, you're more likely to make mistakes, and that's not what we need on the SAT. You need those easy points. So basically, I just did negative b over a is equal to the sum. I plugged in b and a, and then I got the values, the answer. So it's 6. Last question. In the given expression, a is a constant. The expression is equivalent to x raised to the 6th power, where x is greater than or equal to 0. What is the value of a? So the first thing we have to note or realize is that this is basically, or this part is basically power over root, meaning it's power over root. The power is the inside, root is the outside, which is basically the square. So it's x 3 over 2 squared, 3 over x raised to the 3 over 2, and then there's something raised to that. So it would be x 3 over 2 raised to that is equal to x to the 6th. So basically, when you're raising something, you're basically multiplying, because that's one of the fundamental rules of exponents. When you multiply exponents, you add, right? So let's say it's 3 x times 3 times x cubed times x squared. You're basically adding it to get x raised to the 5. But now when you're doing x cubed raised to the 2nd power, you're basically multiplying the exponents to get x to the 6th. So there's a difference when you do that. So let's see. Yeah, so basically, since a is being 3 x raised to the 3 over 2 is being raised to the a, it would basically mean that 3 over 2a is equal to 6, and you can get rid of the you can not focus on these. You don't have to focus on these, because then that's basically the same. Oops, wrong color. Okay, so now basically this comes out to be an easy equation. So if it's 3 over 2a is equal to 6, you have to find the missing value of a. So to solve this, you would multiply everything by 2/3. Multiply everything by 2/3. You get a is equal to what the right side, and 6 times 2 is 12, and divided by 3 is 4. And so that is our answer. We can double check. X raised 3 over 2 to the 4th, meaning 3 over 2 times 4. We do 12 over 2, which is 6. And it's x to the 6th, which matches x to the 6th. Okay, good. So our answer for question 20 is a is equal to the value of a is 4 for 20, and that is basically how you do 20. Just remember, you have to know the fundamental and basic rules of exponents. You can implement them and basically solve challenging questions, because you can break down the question and understand what they're asking. Once again, I really hope that you found value in this webinar, and good luck on your SATs. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and please remember to contact us at info@embracetutoring.com to set up any personalized private tutoring sessions you would like. Stay tuned for future videos, and best of luck with your studies. We definitely encourage you to visit our Instagram as well as TikTok pages if you have any questions along the way. Take care, guys. Best of luck with your studies.